In Israel, the Blue and White Party are into the second week of negotiations in a bid to form a viable government. It follows the failure of the incumbent Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his Likud party. They failed to form government after the second national poll this year failed to deliver a clear result. Ehud Yaari is an Israel-based Leifer International Fellow of the Washington Institute, a commentator and author. He's in Melbourne as a guest of the Australia, Israel and Jewish Affairs Council. Welcome to Melbourne. Thank you very much for joining us. Great to have you. Very timely that you are here. Benny Gantz is into his second week of trying to negotiate this party. The first week he had lots of meetings. What's happening now, do you think?
He's trying to see whether he can have some defectors from the center-right bloc that was established by Mr. Netanyahu immediately after the elections. The chances, I would say, are slim now. The Israeli system is that Mr. Netanyahu had the chance for 28 days to form government. He failed again. Now Mr. Gantz has the chance, 28 days. He has some 3 weeks left. Doesn't look like he's going to succeed. But then you have a period of 21 days in which any member of parliament can try and form a coalition. And that's money time, as we call it in sports. That is, this is the moment when we will see whether the two big parties, the Likud, Bibi's, and Mr. Gantz's Blue and White, can have an arrangement on forming a grand coalition, a national unity coalition. They have before them a very sophisticated proposal by President Rivlin, President of the State of Israel, who's saying to them the following. You are all tied to your campaign promises and commitments, but let's have a national unity government with rotation. We had it before. Mr. Netanyahu will be prime minister first. Once indictments are filed against him, he will announce that he is incapacitated, will stay at the prime minister's residence in Jerusalem, but Mr. Gantz will take over and they will split their portfolios 50-50. I have to just mention one point, which I don't think is well known in Australia, and that is, according to the Israeli law, a prime minister and only the prime minister. And this was passed by parliament long before Bibi became prime minister. A prime minister can serve until convicted at the last instance of the Supreme Court, which can take 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
Nevertheless, that's the proposal on the table.
So that grand proposition, which sounds really interesting, how likely would it be that Benjamin Netanyahu would accept that, given he has been fighting off with all his might any chance of potentially being indicted and going to jail?
Well, I think he will be indicted, and he knows that he will be indicted. We don't know exactly what will be the final form of the indictment, whether he is going to be indicted for bribery or just breach of trust, etc. Mr. Netanyahu is willing to accept the proposal of the president. It's the problem with Blue and White, Mr. Gantz, whether they are willing to go there. They still try to see whether they can have those defectors from the right wing. But we have another interesting development now. For the first time in the 70-plus history of Israeli politics, the Arab party, there is a unified Arab list, has indicated that they are willing to become either part of a coalition under Mr. Gantz or support the coalition from outside in return for some benefits and concessions to the Arab minority in Israel, about 20% of the population. This is a very positive development, although I don't think it will allow Mr. Gantz to form the government.
That would be a really significant development if it gave that Arab party some voice in Israeli politics.
Oh, yes. At any case, it will be an Arab member of parliament who will, at any case, be the leader of the opposition, thereby getting security briefings from all the intel agencies, etc. I think that there is a strong pressure, Beverly, in Israel, not to go for a third round of elections within a year.
Yeah, that would be the thing they need to avoid, because that hasn't resolved. These 2 elections have not resolved this sort of impasse, have they? Oh,
yeah, and I would doubt if we go again to the ballot boxes in late February or early March, whether the result will change in a way which allows either the center-right or center-left to form a government. So the pressure on both Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Gantz to get an arrangement for a grand coalition is growing stronger. Besides that, if I may, there is the sense of urgency in Israel that you need a strong, not a narrow coalition in power in order to tackle the issues that are on the table, mainly the Iranian attempt to put it very strongly, to tie the noose around our necks by entrenching themselves in Syria, upgrading missiles in Lebanon, getting to upgrade the missile arsenal of the Hamas in the Gaza Strip, etc. The government is now a transition government, which by law in Israel is not allowed to make major decisions.
And so there's almost paralysis, but it also leaves the sort of the two-state solution also without any direction, and that seems to have just lost all momentum.
Yes. I think people realize that our Palestinian adversaries, hopefully partners, are not going to accept the deal. Because for them, the statelet, two-state solution, for them it's a statelet, is not really the price for which they are willing to make the concessions which are essential for a compromise. So what is called for is an Israeli initiative by a government which has strong support within parliament and in the public to go to the world, to the donor states, US, EU, Australia, Japan, etc., and say, okay, we can't get the agreement, let's do something dramatic to change the lay of the land. For example, giving up most of the territory of the West Bank, not against peace treaty, not asking the Palestinians to give up their claim for the return of millions of refugees into Israel, just security arrangements and probably some amendments of the economic agreements, and get a Palestinian state going. In order for Israel to take such an initiative, which is imperative in my humble opinion, you need a very strong government with a very broad basis.
And which one would that be? The grand plan that the president has put forward, or do you think this other one that is proposed with the blue and white with an Arab coalition?
I don't. The blue and white and the Arab coalition is an interesting idea, but the numbers don't add up without getting into the details. I think that what is on the table is the president's proposal, which is very complex, unprecedented. But yes, you may have Netanyahu as prime minister for a while, then barricading himself at the prime minister's residence, having his day in court, which is going to last for years, and in the meantime you have Gantz. Gantz is hoping to see a revolt against Bibi in the Likud party. So far, it doesn't happen.
It's not happening. Before you go, I would love to get your impressions, your thoughts on this case that has been gripping Australia, of course, and this is the case of the school teacher Malka Leifer, who's wanted on many, many charges of child sexual abuse. It does look as if the system has been manipulated a little in Israel.
Well, extradition cases in Israel, whether the requirement, the demand comes from the US, Russia, France, and we had cases like this, those cases are always very complex and takes time in the district court. This time, the defense, Mrs. Leifer's lawyers are dragging their feet, and we have another issue here, because the police wants to charge the Deputy Minister of Health for influencing the opinion presented to the court by some psychiatrist, saying that she's not fit to stand trial, etc. This Deputy Minister, an ultra-Orthodox guy, he will most probably be indicted, but it's still up to the court to take the decision, and there is very little that the government can do about it. I think it's not going to take very long now.
Much longer.
Yeah.
Really lovely to have you with us and
My pleasure.
get some fascinating insights into politics. Thank you so much.
Thank you.